topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Legacy Leavers series on Success Secrets Exposed. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time or Wednesday mornings in Australia on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. The series showcases experts, changemakers, and disruptors leaving a lasting legacy with those sharing their wisdom with the world.
Good morning, good evening, and good day to you all, and welcome to another episode of Success Secrets Exposed. Today, we're going to be talking about designing your success, unlocking daily profitability with Mel McSherry. And I'm thrilled to welcome her. She's an international business and life guide who helps inspired yet overwhelmed entrepreneurs honor their lives and become the architects of their own success. She has over 14 years of business building experience, spiritual gifts, and Mel empowers entrepreneurs to slash stress and create a life by design. She does this by combining human design with traditional business strategies and shows individuals how to connect with their goals, leverage their strengths, and achieve daily profitability, both mentally, emotionally, and financially. She's also a 2 times published author, international speaker, and a devoted parent. And Mel's mission is to help others embrace their uniqueness and unlock their full potential. So please help me welcome to the stage, Mel.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. I've been excitedly waiting to talk with you, and of course, we've just had an off-air great conversation. So we're going to be kick-starting it in momentum today.
Love it. Yep.
So let's kick off. I'd love to find out and share with the audience a little bit more about your backstory and the evolution that enabled you to become this international business and life guide.
Yeah, so it's been an up and down journey, which I'm sure is not new to anyone, but I still like to say it anyway to remind people of that fact. That I actually started in the fitness industry. I was a certified personal trainer. I did in-home trainings, outdoor boot camps, bridal boot camps, so on and so forth. And when my son was born in 2011, it was just too difficult to travel to people's homes. I was married at the time. His father worked for Major League Baseball, traveled a ton, and I really needed a moment to figure out what I wanted. Sprinkle in some undiagnosed postpartum depression, and it was a party. And so I needed that moment to pause. And I always like to say I took a step to the side because I really don't believe in step backs. And so I took a step to the side and went, okay, I'm not being able to, do what I want to do, at least business wise, but I do need to make ends meet financially. So I ended up putting a pin in my business and doing something completely against what I love, which was online medical billing. Not something, yeah, sexy. I know. And I love sharing that part of my journey because I have found that a lot of us come to those forks in the road, right? Where we need to choose between our mental, emotional profitability and our financial profitability. And sometimes we have to make decisions that aren't necessarily in alignment with our big picture, but it helps alleviate one of the buckets so the others can follow. And so for me, I really needed that financial bucket to be filled so my mental and emotional could kind of catch up to, my typical daily standard. So I ended up doing online medical billing, and through that time started to again reevaluate what I wanted. And that's a question that I ask myself and that I ask of my clients a lot because it's one that we don't spend a lot of time inside of. It's overwhelming. It can be, sometimes we feel selfish or daunting, but really it's such the foundation of how we can start making the best decisions for ourselves and the most profitable decisions mentally, emotionally, and financially. So that came forward in my next, plot twist of my journey into becoming an online health and fitness coach with a network marketing company here in the States called Beachbody.
Mhm.
And I really loved it. I just wanted to do it as an online health and fitness coach. I had no inclination whatsoever to do the whole business building aspect because I really didn't think I was the person who could tell people how to build a business. LOL. But the universe was like, just wait, Mel, we'll get you there. And so through that, I started becoming really consistent in my sales, became one
Mm.
of the more successful people inside of my team. And my leader, called me up one day and went, you're brand new mom. We coined me a married single mom because my partner at the time was gone all the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're consistent. You're doing how are you doing this? Like, can you just make a quick training or a day in the life of Mel so we could see what you're doing differently? And I really didn't think anything differently. But it turned out that one of the major shifts that really has supported me and continues to support me is I check in on my time management and my energy management.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because time management, we talk a lot about, but we put aside how we're actually feeling inside of that day.
Mhm.
And so I made a quick training on how I checked in on myself. I would check in on my energy. I would look at how much time I had to work my business. And then I would choose which things on my to-do list that matched my energy and I would try not to give myself grief for not doing the big things because, human. But what ended up happening is things still got done and I was able to be sustainable inside of my
Mhm.
success.
Mm.
And that clicked with a lot of people, so she ended up putting it in the new coach boot camp. Her team's productivity exploded. People all of a sudden wanted to work with me. So all of a sudden I had a team. Fast forward a year later, we're in the top 1% of the company. I'm doing team calls and trainings inside of Beachbody. I'm doing team calls and trainings outside of Beachbody on the down low. And in 2015, I found myself in the middle of my divorce with one foot in quote unquote business coaching and the other foot in fitness. And I thought, if there's another time to have another plot twist, ta-da.
Yeah. Yeah.
So through Beachbody, I was honored to have a year-long internship with John C. Maxwell, who is one of the leading longest
Yeah.
coaches. I mean, he's been doing this for decades and got my certification through him and his international leadership team.
Mhm.
Left Beachbody 2016, started my business quote unquote coaching company in 2017, really focusing on network marketing, but then that progressed more and more and more until we got to 2020 when I found myself really in an interesting space because on paper, I was
Mm.
extremely successful. I was traveling all over the world, speaking. I published my first book.
Mhm.
I was making great money. Internally, I was struggling because I had slowly but surely lost that hierarchy of needs when it comes to profitability. I was putting financial first
Mhm.
and my mental and emotional at the bottom going, "Oh, that's just the icing on the cake." And all of a sudden, I felt disconnected to a business that I loved. And every
Mm.
day was this inner struggle of, this is the day they find out. This is the day that I'm full of it. And I just, on a wing and a prayer, made it here. And I couldn't understand why I didn't feel successful. I looked successful. I had all of those milestones
Thanks. Yeah.
ticked, but I felt like a fraud. And it was way beyond imposter syndrome. It was really just, I don't feel myself. And so in 2020 is when human design found me.
Mhm.
I was at a spiritual retreat, unbeknownst to me, 2 weeks before lockdown, COVID lockdown here in Chicago, which we were in lockdown for a while.
Mm.
And a person there did my human design chart, and I sobbed because
Yeah.
it was the first time I had the why behind my how.
Wow. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
I knew that things didn't feel right, but I couldn't advocate for myself because I didn't have the vernacular. It
Mm.
got chalked up to, "Oh, it's just because it's outside your comfort zone," or, "Oh, you just,
Mhm.
you try to put some toxic positivity spin on it in order to do it." And that,
Yes.
right? And that feeling in my gut was just like, no, I don't, but I couldn't say why. So I didn't really stand up for myself. And when I had my chart read to me, and I also read it to myself over and over and over again, it was just that deep breath of, I'm not crazy. I'm
Yeah.
not lazy. I'm not that
Mm,
makes sense. That's okay. And then after that, I started to slowly but surely shift how I showed up in my business, how I structure my business. And by 2022, I was like, everybody needs to know this, entrepreneurs especially,
mm,
because we have unlimited potential on what we can create for ourselves mentally, emotionally, and financially.
yeah.
And yet, so many of us don't even get close because we're so bogged down by everything that we think we need to do or who we think we need to be. We're, as my friend says, we're shooting all over ourselves. And I think one of the main reasons why is because we don't trust ourselves because we're not taught to. We're taught to
Mm,
seek the expert, we're taught to go external
mm,
instead of,
mm.
ooh,
Inter.
what do I already know to be true first? What
Mm,
natural resources, strengths, knowledge do I already have that I can start with?
mm,
And then see who or what is the next best step or resource for me. So when
mm,
I started making those shifts, my business, I mean, this year in the minute that we're recording this, I have never felt so complete in my
mm.
business.
Beautiful.
I've never felt so whole in my business. And it's something that continues to help me create that sustainability
Mm,
and reshift my success because it's no longer financial. Money is great, not knocking it, love it, want it, awesome. But it's not my milestone
yeah.
anymore. It is the bonus to my mental and emotional profitability. And I
Mm,
believe that is what can create true sustainable success
mm.
because that's how we stay motivated. We get motivated by those glimmers. And the more that we know ourselves, those glimmers just come
Yeah,
everywhere. And it
yeah.
just feels like the money comes in.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. I've got my questions are going in my head now. So let's come back because there's a couple of key things that you've said that have really resonated that I've gravitated to. One's that ability in the first stage where you've talked about that time and energy check-in, and then
Mhm,
you've talked about the why behind the how, and then
mhm.
you've obviously rejigged the how as it relates to the hierarchy of needs of financial, spiritual, and
Mental, emotional,
mental.
and yeah,
I didn't write it
financial,
down
yeah.
enough. So, as entrepreneurs, we are all often driven initially by a great big why of some form, but it gets clouded by the how of the financial. So, can you just
Absolutely.
unpick some of that as to
Yeah.
the steps that you've experienced to
Mhm.
now bring you to this place of uniqueness where everything feels and sounds like it's in total flow for you and you're in your thing. Can you
Yeah.
walk us through some of that? Because obviously that's a pinnacle space that everyone's wanting to achieve to, and then we can dig into a little bit more of the challenges and the practical applications of
Yeah,
what you.
yeah. So I do I obviously knowing your why is important. Simon Sinek has been so glorious in coining that for all of us, and we do need that as our North Star. And I have found, and I'm sure you've seen this too, that a lot of times when we get to that how, we second guess ourselves,
We start
or we
messing
feel
it up.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, or we think we have to do again all these things like, okay, so I need a business plan, I need a website, I need to be on social media, I need to be on all these things. And as soon as we announce that we're entrepreneurs, that also just opens up the floodgates to
Government.
all sorts of extra feedback. And, you got social media, and all of a sudden it's just noise on top of noise on top of
Noise.
noise.
Noise. Yeah.
And again, we don't settle back into ourselves first. We find that
Mm,
first person who achieved what we want to achieve or think that we want to achieve or that we've been taught is what we
yeah.
need to achieve. And that's exactly what I did. I hired a very expensive mentor who is amazing, and I took what she gave me, I copied and pasted, and I spit it back out like the good student I was.
Yep.
And again, on paper,
Yeah.
It was fantastic. So that's, I think, where it gets a little muddled is we feel that if it's working financially, we can just suck it up. Or this is, again, just outside of our comfort zone and we need to strengthen something.
Mm.
But then we hit burnout. I've hit it twice in
Mhm.
my journey, and I'm sure I'll hit it again because I'm human. But it won't be as elaborate as it has been in the past due to the fact that I now know my human design and how to move through it.
Yeah.
But I think that becomes almost an addiction of, okay, so who's going to tell me next what to do? Who's going to tell me next what to do? Instead of,
Yeah.
oh, what have they already taught me? How can I keep doing this? Or especially if they tell you to do something, like, for example, if you don't want to be on social media,
Mm.
how, again, you can advocate for yourself and go, not because I just don't want to, which you are more than welcome to say that, by the way, but for yourself of, no, I know this to be true. I know I have this area of my chart that actually my opportunities come from in-person interactions. So I'm going to focus
Mm.
on networking. I'm going to focus on podcasts. I'm going to focus on other areas. And yes, social media can still be a part of it, but how you prioritize that all of a
Mm.
sudden becomes different.
Yeah.
So when you know the why behind your how, all of a sudden you start with yourself first. And instead of going, well, I can't do that, can I? You can go, ooh, I can do this. And
Mm.
that just like, I had a
Shift.
client, I had a client the other day who was like, well, I just want to start a group and I just want to have a little bit of the bits and bobs, obviously, the outcome, but I want to just play inside of that space and have it kind of structurally unstructured. But I can't do that, can I? And I was like, says who?
Mm.
And we looked, like, especially with how she's designed. I'm like, no, that's exactly how you're designed. And that's why I love human design, because it shows you your starting points, your stopping points, and your strengths and your strategies.
Mm.
We
Mm.
all naturally live inside our designs. It's innate. We're born with it, but
Yeah.
we go too far. Or again, because we don't know why, we just push it to the side and go over here and do something else.
Look at the external again. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it is that practice that we aren't, again, initially taught to come back. It's that validation of, ooh, I do know this to be true. That confirmation that
Mm.
builds that self-trust. So then you have that awareness and that even deeper trust in your own process, because you just know this to be true.
True. And I think as I'm listening, that I'm looking at all the what I'm going to call it. We'll just call them Sally personal trip up points. Is when you're in business and you're looking at the data, and I totally get that. Perception wise and detail wise, everything looks like it's rocking and rolling, which is
Yeah.
awesome. And I think if I don't like personally playing in the finance space, but I know it's one of the requirements that we do in there. And I was just, as you were talking, I was feeling every time I go into there, let's look at the finance and do all those plans and all the rest of it, I'm looking at the data, which is very external, and
Mm-hmm.
go, okay, well, that looks like that's worked and that looks like that's worked, but I haven't been backing up that's worked with this is working for
Yeah.
who you are and that. So I
Yeah.
think that conversation around taking the external validation and information and analytics that we're all taught to look at and go, well, how do those analytics marry over the analytics and the strengths and etc. that I'm finding within my human design and my inner knowings, etc.
Yeah, because it's more than just financial ROI, it's mental and
Yeah,
emotional as well. And
correct.
I did the same thing, because when I had my chart, I looked at, yes, I can say I've spoken over 200 times internationally, but if I really looked at the whole of the ROI in each of
And
those
the
speaking
energy.
events,
Yeah.
I mean, probably a third or a fourth of those were actually fully holistically profitable for me. The rest were just
Mm.
on my CV, like, ta-da.
Yeah.
And it is that, I think that is what had me burn out the first time, was just trying to keep up that expectation, trying to keep up those pretenses,
Mm.
because that's what shows success, is show your lifestyle, show what you've accomplished. And
Yep.
so getting those things, but then every time somebody would be, oh, you're so successful. It's so, you're so great. A little part of me would be like, am I? Because this, it just, yeah, I have, and that to me doesn't create sustainability. It is that
Mm.
when you start honing in and looking at the quality versus the quantity, that's when true success comes,
Yes,
because you really find your way inside of it. And again, you find those profitability points every single day, to where then it feels like every day you're making $1 million. And that $1 million, quote unquote, comes because you are already in that flow. You're in that
right.
state of mind. And
Mm,
even on those days when you aren't, because we're human, you know how to take care of yourself, so when you are ready to step back in, you are
bounce back.
just as profitable. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. We've talked, you mentioned and highlighted then a couple of the, the overwhelm and the common problems. What's the first step that people need to take to help balance that ambition? We'll just
Mm.
use big words, and well-being, as it relates to the three buckets that you're talking about, of the well-being buckets there as well. So what are the first steps? So walk us through the, human design and the first steps that you look at, because everybody wants more time.
Yeah.
You hear that word, and I'm going to
Yeah.
purposely use the word more there. And we all know how diminished our energy occurs and how quickly it occurs. So we're all very conscious of that right now. And
Mhm.
that's obviously where the magic happens, when that sits properly.
Mhm.
Mm,
So with human design, and I love that you mentioned, we all want more time. And I always
mm,
hear that quote where, like, even Beyonce or Oprah has the same 24 hours. Yes, but they also have a personal chef, a personal trainer, and like 5 assistants, right? So comparing your time to somebody else's does not work, because
yeah,
everybody has, to your point, different capacities. And that's the first thing
that's
that I
correct.
love that human design shows, is first just what your pure
You.
energy looks like.
Mm,
So for me, inside of human design, there's 5 energetic types. And these are kind of the overarching themes of your energy.
mm,
For me, I'm what's called a projector, and
mhm,
I don't have any natural energy. The energy that I can kind of get for myself lasts 2 to 4 hours.
mm,
If I'm around people who have major energy, which they're called generators or manifesting generators, then I get almost like I get faked out. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, no, I can do this. I can do this. And then as soon as they leave my atmosphere, I crash. And so having that awareness of, okay, working on my own as a solopreneur, if I'm not seeing
mm,
anybody that day, I know I only have 2 to 4 hours of quote unquote work. So
yeah,
again, knowing that gives me already the permission to restructure my day. Instead
yes.
of trying to keep pushing and keep quote unquote hustling, which is what I was doing in the past. I
During
was
the day, yeah,
was starting at 5 a.m. and going to bed at 2 a.m. thinking that that's the badge of an entrepreneur. I
yes,
get more done, and now I have more of a complete lifestyle. I can spend
yeah,
time with my partner. I can spend time with my kiddo and not feel guilty, because I know I have focused for the 2 to 4 hours that I had, or maybe less if I didn't have much to do that day,
yeah,
and I made it extremely profitable. So what
yes,
that does is that helps us understand our personalized pace, which is another thing
mm,
we're not
mm,
taught.
yeah,
We are taught to, you hit a milestone, great, what's the next one? You
yeah.
did 10 grand, great, let's double it. Like, we never have time to celebrate, to recalibrate.
Celebrate, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, good, keep moving. And when
Put
you
it on the
understand,
CV, yeah.
yeah, and even those who have a ton of energy, you still have starting and stopping points. I always tell my clients, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And so it helps you evaluate and prioritize where that energy goes. And when you have that in mind, then all of a sudden it becomes, as I've mentioned, sustainable, and you can always bring it back to that. So the starting point with human design is understanding first just your energy capacity and where you receive it, how much you have, because then you can already start reframing and adjusting what you
Mm,
can do inside of your business to support that. For me,
mm.
I have a calendar link. I only take 2 meetings, 3 meetings a day. I have an hour break in between. I have a link that tells people that, because I will muck it up if I try to do it on my own. And so that's created an automatic boundary for me.
Yes, yes.
And so it's those little things. Brendan Burchard has a great quote that I say often, And it's the little things you do every day that make the biggest difference. And when you
Yeah,
have
totally.
that awareness of who you are, how your energy is produced, how you best work, and the strategies that are meant for you, all
Mm,
of a sudden it's just little tweaks or lesson releasing things and reframing them into something that really does just flow with you
yeah.
without that hustle and without that angst.
Yes, yeah. And you've just touched on there, just a simple thing as it relates to, a calendar link, knowing what you know about who you are and how you operate, and then having the ability to structure something that just takes the control on the.
Yeah.
I can relate to the mess because when I get inside mine, it just gets way messy. And you've just got you've got your bumper rails, and it's
Mhm.
like that just makes that easy. And then that takes all of, as you said, that mental gymnastics around that as well. And
Yeah.
isn't it the beauty of technology when we can actually use it in the most supportive way for ourselves?
Absolutely. It's, for a lot of us who are solopreneurs, outsourcing is not necessarily financially viable. And
Mm.
there are so many beautiful, either non-expensive ways or nowadays free days. Man, being an entrepreneur now, as opposed to 14 years ago, is just
Yeah, everything's
massively
gone.
shit. I'm
Yes.
sure my father is saying the same thing. My father has been an entrepreneur my entire life, and he's now, in his late 60s.
Yeah.
But to have the resources that we have now, it is so much easier to
Yeah.
protect our time and energy, but that still can also be overwhelming if you
Overwhelming.
don't know what those boundaries are to begin with for
For you.
yourself.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, love that. Um, I'm going to dive a little bit more into it being as the human design being that game changer, and you've also talked about the power of how. So
Mm.
let's walk through what you mean by that power of how, and
Mhm.
how understanding, because you're touching on it, is transforming the way entrepreneurs sort of look at their goals.
Mhm.
Um, and it's now I'm sort of wanting to move into that alignment of those goals, and get dispelling some of those shoulds,
Mhm.
and bringing it back into what's the slipstream of this
Mm.
flow within this, from your experience and the work that you do with clients.
Yeah, so when it comes to people's house, it's first and foremost, you have full say on how you spend the time that you have and how you
Yes.
spend the energy that you have. You
Yep.
have full say on how you build your own business. That's the joy of being an entrepreneur. That's why we wanted to become entrepreneurs. And I
Correct.
think that also gets lost a lot
It
because we
does.
get so conditioned by coaches, mentors, social media, etc.
Yeah.
And that is one of my favorite things is I'm not even giving my clients permission because I'm just showing them. I just
Mm.
go, "Hey, this is
You.
you. This is what I'm seeing. You're saying this. One of these things is not like the other. So where do you want to go from here?" And it
Mm.
sometimes is those reminders of, "Oh, I do have full say. I can not have a website and still be quote unquote successful. I can not be on social media and still be quote unquote successful."
Yeah.
And that is what human design, it's called the science of differentiation for a reason, because we are all
Mm.
unique.
Mm.
Every single one of us have a different pattern, have a different, nobody's chart is the same, nobody's energy is the
Mm.
same. Even though there are 5 types, each person inside that type is completely different, but we all work together as a collective. So
Mm.
when we honor ourselves as an individual and we know and give ourselves the permission to create our own how and what that looks like, then all of a sudden everybody else also feels more profitable because then they can see where they can let go or they can jump
Mm.
in because you've created those clear starting and stopping points.
Yeah.
So the fluidity as a whole becomes really beautiful because you start to see how each of these cogs actually work together, but you're slowly focused on you as an individual as opposed to you inside of the massive machine, quote unquote.
Yeah. Love that.
So it is that permission of, oh, I do have full say. I know this to be true. So this is my how for now. And then when you get more information, you can go back and reevaluate and go, okay, now with this new information, what new decisions can I have? Because a lot of us forget that we should be continually checking in on ourselves. We should be continuously going, why am I still doing this? Especially
Mm.
if it's something that doesn't feel yummy
Mm.
anymore. but it's become part of the routine. And even with human design, the person who brought it forward says it takes an average of 7 years for you to fully envelop it. And I love that because that means it grows with you.
With you, it's
So,
evolution.
yeah. Yeah. So you can take that first awareness and go, oh, I now know this. So I'm going to change that. And I'm going to keep doing that until that feels really just natural and yummy. And then I'll see what the next thing that comes up that I can go, ooh, oh, now it's this one. And now we're going to change this. And it becomes that very evolutionary, to use your amazing word, evolutionary process, because it just grows with you. And it's not so much of, what's wrong with me. It more turns into what was wrong with that advice or what was wrong with that process. And when you have that understanding of yourself, you can make those more profitable decisions because they're based on what you know to be true and what you've already put into play and practice as you continue to learn.
And I love that because I can see that evolutionary. We talk about the spirals of energy going up, and you've got that. I've evolved here, and then we've got evolved here, and then we've evolved, and then it just sort of keeps getting bigger and juicier. Sort of using your words. And I remember when we first met, I had the conversation around one of my mentors said to me, quite a number of years ago, "Oh, for God's sake, Sally, stop studying strategies and study yourself 95% of the time and strategies 5% of the time." And that's what I loved about the conversation we've had is you've actually got a system that enables you to study and understand yourself wholly, that allows you to grow and evolve through that process. And then you can find the 5% of strategies and elements that can help you support the growth and those sorts of things within that arena.
Yeah, because you're more than just a milestone. You are a person who wants to create what you want to create, whatever that looks like for you. And when you take away, when you stop making yourself into a statistic and just understanding yourself as a human, it does just become you become more connected and your business just becomes more magical because it's no longer, oh, I have to reach out to 5 people, follow up with the 2 people, schedule one thing, kind of all these rules that we're taught.
Yes.
And instead can just go, oh, I know I'm going to do this. And, for myself as a projector whose strategy is wait to be invited, let's see what comes in. And as I'm waiting, I know I can spend my time over here mastering other things that keep me energetically attuned and happy. So when those opportunities come in, I'm ready, Freddie, and we're ready to go.
Yeah, and I love that we've also talked about that not everybody has to have a website, not everybody has to be on social media. You just need to know what's right for you and how you play the game. And having the marketing agency, I'll always have, oh, but I need to have a website. Oh, I need to be on social media. And everyone says I need to be on at these times and 7 days a week. And it's like, well, let's just back the truck up here. What's actually working? What do you actually like doing? And then going from there. And then the human design adds a whole nother layered roadmap.
Yeah. Ooh, very topical. Yeah. Not see like mountains. Like we're both like, ooh, hey, Sally. Yeah. Because it's true that, there is so many layers. And I was going to say something and now it's completely left my brain. So we're just going to keep going on. What you said something really cool before the topical thing, and then my brain just started thinking of mountains.
What I said from what I remember, because this is where I get up to in my excitement, was that layered roadmap. I sort of see it as that, you've got the layered roadmap to it's the evolutionary layered roadmap. If that makes sense.
I think we should just leave it at that because apparently the universe, like what everyone said, was not that was chef's kiss. So we'll keep moving on.
Beautiful. So let's dive into now, because we're going to get we'll get the wind up soon. Not that we're there yet. Around the inspiration and empowerment of making every day profitable and the small steps that enable us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that was very broad, and I'm just going to let you pick that up wherever it needs to go.
I think that we forget that this is a process. We like to jump to the end.
I do not. I don't know what you mean.
I know. What if I could just wake up and have 6 figures?
Yeah.
And a lot of us just tell me how to get there. I was that person. I was
Yeah,
just like,
me
just tell
too.
me how to get there and I will do it. And we forget that, again, Brendon Burchard, he used this example as well. It's like when you're trying to push a dead car, right? It's dead in the road and
Yes.
you can't get it going. So you're pushing, but then all of a sudden you start gaining momentum. And then all of a sudden it's like the car is moving on its own.
Mm.
But we have to it's not a running start. You can't just run at the car. You're going to break your shoulder. You're going to, it's just not going to work. But
Yeah.
it's that step by step and it's that
Mm.
consistency. And oh, now that was it came back to me of what I wanted to say. When you were talking about the how,
Mm.
one of the things, and I should show up certain times a day in social media. The other thing that I love about the vernacular that you learn with your human design is then you're able to redefine commonly used words like consistency. What is
Mm.
consistency to you? What is success to you? What is sales to you? And because when you understand then where it's coming from for yourself, you can reframe those or just chuck them out the window altogether. But it takes off that pressure of
Mhm.
again, the shoulds. So
Yes.
when you do that, yes, it may feel like you're starting over. It may feel like you are at a pausing point. But the thing is that because we are now working on the sustainability inside of your success, not your success just as a focal
It's
point.
external. Yeah.
Yeah, then you can start going bit by bit by bit. And then all of a sudden you're going to look back in, an X amount of time and go, oh, well, now I just magically show up and it just feels like things are just coming to me.
Mm. Mm.
And that is the aim. And that is what can happen when you really start attuning yourself to your design, to your energetic capacity, to your blueprint. It
Mm.
becomes then non-negotiable and non-negotiable in a way that feels good. It doesn't come with, well, should I? It's just like, no, I know this. And therefore, I know not to do that, or I know to do this. And it
Mm.
gives you that strength. It gives you that
Yes.
confidence that a lot of us, again, are seeking from external milestones
Mm.
instead of going back to ourselves first and creating our process. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's process is different.
Mm.
Social media is beautiful, but to your point, it only shows us certain glimpses and things that are very curated.
Yeah.
And it is your journey and it's a beautiful one. So let's make it as profitable as possible, mentally, emotionally, and financially, all coming from you first.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm going to dig in because you've just said a couple of my favorite words. That one was consistency, and the other
Mhm.
one was sales. And, lots of people do and don't like sales, and lots of people do and don't like being consistent or struggle with consistency.
Yeah.
And I also noticed, as it related to you with your knowing of your human designs, you know that if you're in the right space, I'll just call it flow,
Mhm.
doing your things, things come to you. So that's that serendipitous. I refer to that as the serendipitous thing.
Mhm.
Now, somebody that may be in a similar human design profile, if that's not quite the right term, and they're doing the hustle thing where they're outwardly charging after everything, they're
Mhm.
sort of almost doing that reverse. So can you talk us through the fact that consistency in sales is going to, from an examples perspective of how somebody like you does consistency and sales based on
Mhm.
the way you flow, and somebody else that does consistency in sales, it's a different profile that does it differently, just to give the audience some context around how you can just do it your way.
Yeah, absolutely. So for myself, again, as I mentioned, my energy is lower, quote unquote, or just not as much and not as naturally produced. So my consistency to me means that when I have the energy to step in or show up, I step in and show up. If
Mm.
I don't have that energy, I reschedule or I do something different to be that consistent energy. I want to be a consistent value when I am in a space. And so I protect my time and energy to be that consistent value. And to me, sales, I don't even use that word. It's conversations. I
Yeah.
love just talking to people. And it's no longer with an end game because I was trained to have an end game of control the conversation, make sure you always bring it back to the problem, to the
Yeah.
solution, to blah, 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 blah. people don't want to be berated about their problems. They know, like they already know that they're struggling with something, which is why they're spending time with you. And
Mm.
I almost want to say almost like the guilt trips that I was taught to lovingly give to kind of almost coerce them into saying
Yeah.
yes at that moment. Now, because I know people make decisions differently, there's another area in human design that shows you where in your body you make your decisions from and what's the process behind that.
Mm.
I know for some like myself, I need to sleep on it. And I really do. It's not a BS excuse. I really do need to spend time with this decision and I will get back to you.
Mm.
And I was taught to not take that's a yes. A maybe is a yes. So keep them on the phone or
Right. Yeah.
figure out or schedule another phone call to strategize how we can turn this into a yes. No, I don't do
Yeah.
that at all anymore. And
Yeah.
it is that trusting again of I'm not leaving any money on the table. I'm stepping in with my consistent value. I'm here to
Mm.
listen, give my support, and then it really is up to them to make the best decision for themselves. And I want them to feel good about it. I don't want them to come into my space stressed out because they just maxed out their credit card to spend time with me. I want to be accessible and I want them to be able to really embrace the process for themselves with as little I mean, there's going to be stress, but with as little internal pressure that they've given themselves because they think if they don't do it now, they're
Mm.
screwed.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's really helped me relax my conversation and really be present and really be consistent inside of that.
Yeah.
For somebody else who has a little bit more energy, I mentioned, generators and mani-gens, the consistency is making sure that that's consistent in different areas because they can get hyper focused and then
Mm.
they go 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 and not check in on themselves. That's why each type has its own strategy. So I mentioned mine was wait to respond. Generators is or mine is wait to be invited. Generators is wait to respond and know thyself. And
Mm.
it's those reminders of, ooh, I need to check back in. Just because I
Mm.
can doesn't mean I should. And
Mm.
also generators have what's called more of a stair step style of success. So they hit plateaus, which is
Mm.
initiated by frustration. And that's actually a positive thing because it goes, ooh, I've mastered everything in this situation. I now get to take a step to the side, celebrate, reevaluate, and then wait to see what that next best step is.
Mm.
And so again, it just reframes that pace.
Mm.
Consistency to a generator is consistently checking in on themselves and
Mm.
making sure that they're not going too far inside of their follow through because they're not the initiator. They are the follow through. And none
Mm.
of us are not, none of us are taught to not initiate. That is like key in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But in fact, only 10% of the population, which are called manifestors, are meant to initiate. The rest of us have an
Mm.
element of weight in our strategy.
Mm. Mm.
So again, that's like, oh, that's completely different from what I've been told. So even
Mm.
inside of that information that you just heard, and I'm sure you went, I'm sorry, what? It is that pace of going, oh no, I know it needs to be just a scotch slower and I need to reevaluate for
Yeah.
myself. So it's not again slowing down to where you're just going to start going crazy, but it lessens that tenacity to create that sustainability for your consistency as a more energetic person.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I love that weight principle because that's been such a strong and a long lesson for me. It's like, okay, just dive now, pull back, just wait.
Yeah.
Just got a couple of questions coming in.
Yeah.
Is there a book about all these things you're talking about as we've discussed so much while we've been chatting? So can you share a little bit about your books or the human design? And then I've got another question.
Yeah. So my book that I've written is called She Profits. And I always like to call it's kind of like the gateway drug to human design because it's structured to just help you get comfortable with the question, what do I want? And then from there, help evaluate your time and energy and how to create more profitable, to-do lists and more profitable day-to-days from just a pure understanding of what you want and understanding your time and energy for yourself.
Yeah.
So that's called She Profits. And then the first human design book that I love to suggest to people because it's very easy to digest is called Understanding Your Human Design, and it's by Karen Curry. And it's to understand, by the way, to get your human design information, you do need to know your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location. And there are a ton of free sites on the internet that you can, log that in, and it'll give you the basic information. And that's all you need to then, when you get the book, to correlate and then read deeper into who you are. So that's one of my favorite first books in human design, because after that it just starts getting very technical and and a little overwhelming.
And just before I go to the next question, can you also share with the audience, because I know you do virtual coffees, and we've just got that link going across the screen as well. So talk us through what the experience of that is as well.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I love to talk with people and make sure that I am the right support, because there are a lot of human design practitioners and we're all different. So my virtual coffees are 30 minutes long, completely complimentary, no sales, no stress. It's a safe space for you to ask me questions, to just kind of dig a little bit deeper into, what you've heard or what you're curious about. And we can see if human design is really what's best for you in this moment, and if I'm the right person, and if not, if there's anything else I can do to support you. So it's just a really great way to increase our networks, as well as just have that one-on-one time to make sure that this is the most profitable step for you, and I'm the most profitable practitioner.
For you. And just question was, can you just reconfirm the name of the author? I wrote down Karen Curry, but just make sure I've got it correct.
Correct. Karen Curry. Yeah.
Curry. Excellent. And then there was the last question is human design a course you study with a diploma?
It can be. Mine has just been through years and years of practice. I set my practice up on things that I have full knowledge in. As I mentioned, it takes 7 years. I call human design the ultimate onion of personal development. There's a lot of layers.
Yes.
And so the ones that I have fully embraced and utilize fluidly in my day-to-day is what I work with my clients. My clients are usually very introductory to human design, but there are a ton of courses out there that you could take a lot of information from. But I will say this, and this actually I used to say even when I was a personal trainer, just because they're certified doesn't mean that they're the best. So spend time listening to other practitioners. That's why I love doing my virtual coffees, because you can get to know me and you can really see what knowledge I have, and is that what you're looking for. So yes, there are, but don't let paper fool you.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you. So we've only got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you the question around the advice to your younger self. Knowing what you know now, what would you teach yourself or say to yourself differently?
Trust yourself.
Yeah.
Like I did it for the first 30 plus years of my life, and you really do have everything inside of your soul to answer the call. You just have to find it. And taking that time to know that, and no, you don't know everything. You're not supposed to know everything, but also everything isn't supposed to be known by you. So what is it really that's going to help expand you, help evolve you, help support you as you come from a place from yourself first, and trust it. Just even if you don't know why, even if you don't have the vernacular, just say not right now and let it play out on its own, because that is what does create sustainability. The copy and pasting will only get you so far. I have lived and survived and died in that, and been reborn again into this, this is what I know to be true. And it really is, and you already know it. As I said, we already naturally live inside of our design. Trust what you already know, even if you don't have the vernacular, and keep going.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Very, very well summed up. For somebody that's just asked me, do I teach this? No, I don't. But for those that know me well, I do geek out on what I'm going to call profiles. And I love the whole self-discovery around this, which is why I've brought Mel on the show, because her and I had a virtual coffee and I got giddy around all of the information and have geeked out further. And what I've loved about it is the conversation and the discovery around that, and the revolving rings that we've talked about, enable I find, and on speaking to other people that have been in this space, it really helps you find your space to home, to find that guidance that you're looking for, so we can uncomplicate our lives, because again, everyone knows that I like to keep things simple, and we all know how we overcomplicate things, and that's even before we put the shoulds and the shoulds on top. Mel, any closing comments from you? It's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure. I'll let you finish it off with anything else further.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been I'm speechless, because it's conversations like this of bringing us back to ourselves that I think are so needed, and what people are looking for but don't know, because again, they're looking for that external. So know that you already have everything inside of you to answer the call of your soul. Trust yourself and start from there.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Mel. Thank you, everyone. Great questions. Love the interaction. Thank you. And we will look forward to seeing you on another episode of Success Secrets Exposed. Till then, take care.
Remember, if you want to be sought after and sold out, as well as being known as the obvious expert in your industry, you need to speak with Sally, our host of Success Secrets Exposed. Sally is the founder of Monetize Your Content, a done-for-you content marketing agency that helps you be easy to buy. See you next week on another episode of Success Secrets Exposed. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time or Wednesday mornings in Australia on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV.